Well, I flipped on the TV and watched their past 2 preseason games when their starters played. And I just see an emotionally drained team. They've been to the NFC Championship 4 in the past 5 years. They've been to the Super Bowl twice, and they lost that Super Bowl to the same team. It reminds me of...
The San Francisco 49ers are 5-7 after getting blown out by the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo on Sunday Night Football on December 1st, 2024. The 2024 regular season has not gone well for San Francisco whatsoever. It has been filled with injuries, unfortunate luck, disaster, blown games, and just, it's been an outright failure after making the Super Bowl last year, after 4 out of 5 successful years for the 49ers where they have made at least the NFC Championship. And it just has not looked good in 2024 for this team. This is different than other Super Bowl hangovers because I think the realization is there that they are devastated. That most of this roster feels like last year was their one chance and that something is going to change soon, that they can never reach those heights again. I think the San Francisco 49ers in general as a team can. I think Brock Purdy can do it again. I think there's going to be some players that will still be around, but there's going to be some notable names that won't be there for long term or even after this season, despite being there over the last few years and making multiple conference championships and making a Super Bowl and almost winning a Super Bowl and losing in overtime. All right, this is Son of a Sports. Let's talk about the San Francisco 49ers and their Super Bowl hangover. Okay, so mind the fantasy mark on everything. That's Fantasy Pros. But look down the list. Look at all the outs. Look at everything. And there's so much more. And I'm going to go through offense and defense. This team has been horrifically injured this year. It has been a disaster in terms of injury luck, despite having some of the best injury luck in the league over the last 2 years outside of quarterback in 2022. It has not been good for the San Francisco 49ers this year in terms of luck. And let's just break it down position by position. Okay, so Brock Purdy. Okay, let me just start with, you see the highlighted dashed line next to someone's name? Pretty much means they've missed a game, they've struggled with injuries, or something like that throughout the year. But Brock Purdy's won. Brock Purdy has missed a game this year, and he's actually suffering from some shoulder injuries. Christian McCaffrey, as we all know, missed a big chunk of this year. I think he's only played 4 games, and will now be out for pretty much the rest of the year with a serious PCL injury. Jordan Mason has missed games because of injuries. Elijah Mitchell is on IR because of injuries, a player that has been on this roster since 2021 and was their lead back before McCaffrey joined. Deebo Samuel has significantly slowed down this year and has struggled with injuries all year long. Juwan Jennings has been out with injuries, despite making a bigger role for himself this year. Ricky Purcell got shot before the season started. Brandon Ayuk, a player that all offseason the 49ers were negotiating a contract with, were about to trade, ended up tearing his ACL and MCL, and people and 49ers fans criticize him for wanting the money. That's why he wanted the money, by the way. George Kittle has struggled with injuries this year. I'm pretty sure he got carted off the field at one point. Even though he looks fully healthy now, knock on wood, he has struggled with injuries. Trent Williams has struggled with injuries all year long, and it has been a consistent issue with Trent Williams, who is like 37 years old and is on the verge of retirement, even if he's still incredible. Aaron Banks, their left guard, has struggled with injuries this year. John Feliciano has also struggled with injuries. Sorry for butchering that pronunciation. He's on IR right now. They have struggled with horrific injuries this year. Their offensive line has been consistently one of their biggest issues since Kyle Shanahan took over, or in general for a long time. But Trent Williams has fixed a lot of those issues. Well, he's been hurt in and out of the lineup all year. And Dominic Pooney has been a big underrated pickup for him. It's just not been great. I mean, the other thing too that people talk about is Shanahan allowing Brock to change protections and all that. And that could help a little bit, but the offensive line hasn't been good because of injuries and just the talent's not there. And the weapons that everyone talks about all the time, even if there's still a lot, they have struggled with injuries all year long. Let's look at the defense because it's also been horrific here. Bosa has struggled with injuries all year long. Jordan Elliott has struggled with injuries all year long. Javon Hargrave, their big free agency signing before the 2023 season, is on IR and is out for the year. And he did struggle in those games he played earlier this year. We all saw in the Super Bowl Dre Greenlaw tearing his Achilles. It was horrible. It's awful. Fred Warner has suffered with an ankle injury all year long and has still been practicing with it despite them not putting it on the injury report. That's another hidden thing I'm going to add on a tangent in this video. 49ers are horrifically awful with hiding players' injuries. Players have injuries, and they have completely been negligent with how they talk to the public about it. And I know teams should keep players' health important, but 49ers do not have a good history about, prioritizing players' health. Let me just say that. So it's a little suspicious with how often they're secretive about players' injuries. Like Fred Warner, whose ankle injury is now coming out in week 12, and I think he's suffered from it all year long. Okay. Lenore. Demonador Lenore, he has missed games. Telawana Hafunga, who he missed last year too, but he has been their guy that people have been very excited about the next Troy Polamalu. Well, he's on IR right now. It has not been good on defense and offense. It has just been a disaster health-wise. And there's been talk on Twitter tonight about this team didn't capitalize on their moment. They didn't, go all in. They didn't do another move. They didn't change something around. But I think this team made a lot of the right moves year after year, and they kept trying. I think there's a lot of criticisms that's going to be made later down the road of the 49ers that I think are going to be a little valid. They didn't invest more at quarterback. Shanahan was very egotistical with his play calling and how he wanted a quarterback in the system. They didn't even look into scouting Mahomes or Watson. Even if Watson sucks now as a horrible human being, they didn't even look into them because he was a good prospect. They didn't look into them or Trubisky whatsoever. Shanahan was all bought in on waiting for Kirk Cousins. And then they got Jimmy Garoppolo and were settling for Jimmy Garoppolo for years because Jimmy was going to listen to whatever Kyle said. And it limited them. There's going to be a lot of talk of that in the future. And these rosters have all been incredible around the quarterback play and the offensive line play. It has not been great. But you're seeing now, these players are breaking down. A big thing with Shanahan tree guys, especially Kyle himself, and Sean McVay, who has his own little tree now because he's a little different than Kyle, they break down running backs really badly. They overuse them. They don't let them get a break. Elijah Mitchell in 21 was used it very often, and you're seeing his body already give up on him over it. Jordan Mason, earlier in the year, being used constantly to overcome Purdy's red zone issues, the offensive line collapsing, Deebo Samuel not being the same player he was, Brandon Ayuk not being warmed up into the year, Ricky Pearsall not being able to play. Christian McCaffrey is 29 years old and has had injuries throughout his career, but it's finally catching up to him because over the last 2 years, it's been incredible injury luck, but his body's breaking down. That's what happens to running backs after age 27. And it's a godsend he was able to have the year he had last year. You're seeing this team finally come to an end. Not finally, I really wish injury luck was well for the players. But they've tried again with this unit year after year after year. And I'm not saying go in on a rebuild. I am not saying that. But let's just look at how many players have been here for a while and how many guys of this, how much of this core they keep trotting out with year after year, and how devastated and how tired they have to be at this point, trying this again and again and again. The guys marked with a pink line right to the right of their name are guys that have been on this team since at least the beginning of 2022. Hargrave's different, 2023, but these guys have been around. These guys are tired, and all NFL players are tired. Don't get me wrong on that. What I'm trying to say is these guys are drained, devastated, and these guys are human beings too. Let's remember that, from being near there every single year and not doing it. And now it's catching up to them. Trent Williams is near the end. Deebo Samuel is falling out of his prime. Christian McCaffrey is near the end. George Kittle is still really incredible, but we don't know how much time he has left. That's a very limiting position physically. Javon Hargrave had started declining. Dre Greenlaw tore his Achilles. Fred Warner's had a serious injury all year long. Tre'Davious Ward, corners do not last much longer than his age. It is not. They didn't win. They did not win. They went all in. They kept going with this roster, and this team is not the same team whatsoever from the 2019 Super Bowl appearance. They are completely different. Most of their stars were not on that team. I think Deebo, Kittle, and Fred Warner were on that team. Outside of that, I can't think of anyone else. Tre'Davious Ward actually played for the Chiefs that year and won the Super Bowl, not the 49ers. But what I'm trying to say is Brock Purdy in a year's time, because I think he's still the guy for the 49ers, in a year's time, 2 years' time, whatever team's around Brock Purdy is going to look completely different. I think 2 years' time, you're not going to see a Christian McCaffrey. You're definitely not going to see a Trent Williams. You're probably not going to see a Deebo Samuel. You might. Brandon Ayuk could probably still be there. George Kittle might still be there. But, yeah, I mean, this team has changed drastically over the last 5 years, and it's only going to change drastically even more. The Eagles brought in a lot of pieces last offseason, and they still have a lot of the pieces from the Super Bowl run. James Bradbury is still on the team. He's a strong safety now, but he's still on the team. Hurts, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. I mean, their main guys are still there, but they made a lot of different moves. Offensively, they're pretty much the exact same, except a different coaching staff. Defensively, they're completely different. And I keep rambling and going on and trying to make some point here. What I'm trying to say is this Super Bowl run, it is the perfect example of, or this 49ers run is the perfect example of, they almost didn't. They almost won. They almost made it to the mountaintop, and they didn't. And you're seeing the effects of that at a human level. And it sucks. It sucks for 49ers fans. It sucks for the players. It sucks for the coaching staff. It sucks for everyone in that organization. That they were there. That they did it. That they almost won. And they didn't do it. And it hurts. It hurts really bad. You saw it with the Bills in the 90s. You saw it with a lot of teams in recent years I can't even think of at the top of my head. Falcons in 2016, Panthers in 2015. They didn't end up coming back. And it really, really, really sucks. But yeah, I just wanted to ramble on and talk about what a Super Bowl hangover looks like and how drastic it can be and why this one feels a little different and why this one feels so hopeless for this team. At least with the Eagles, you could make a coaching change and see what that could do and bring in a few new pieces like a Kenyon Mitchell and a Cooper DeJean. And maybe the 49ers do that, but the Eagles didn't have a bunch of old guys. They had old guys at replaceable spots that could easily be replaced. 49ers are built around stars that are older. Faces of the franchise. And that's a lot more difficult to overcome. But yeah, I'm just rambling on because I know a lot of people are going to be talking about this over the next few days, over the next few weeks, when the offseason comes, and people have been talking about it all season long. This is Son of a Sports, and I'll catch y'all next time.